Hello and welcome to step 4 of making your own plushie. So far, step 1, we've designed it. Step 2, we have gathered all of our materials, including making all the little pattern pieces for the appliques. Step 3, we went ahead and pinned our pattern pieces to our fabric and cut them out. And now step 4, we actually get to start sewing. Very exciting. Step 4 is actually putting the appliques on our big pieces of fabric. So tune in. All right, so here I have the front part of my plushie, and I'm going to start with the little ears. So I have my little design, my pattern piece to look at, so that I know I'm putting my ears on correctly. So it's funny with him being sort of orangey red, mostly it's orange, but it's sort of red tinted orange. With his little black ears right now, he looks less like a tiger and more like a fox. But you can see that they do mirror each other. We have this long pokey bit at the top of each ear and this sort of thicker, flatter bit down here at the bottom of each ear. They are symmetrical. That's what we like. I'm now going to thread a needle with black thread. And this is not stress bearing. This is being appliqued on. So I'm actually just going to single thread my needle. Okay, tie the knot at the end of my string. Beautiful little knot there. Cut off the tail. And for these ears, I'm going to do a basting stitch or a running stitch. Now remember, this is like the one from Cinderella that the mice use. It's literally just up, down, up, down, up, down. So I'm going to start over here on the end and go up and down. And I'm making sure that my stitches are even and pretty. Make sure that the needle goes all the way to the back, all the way through the fabric into the back. As I move the needle and sew around the ear, there's really no need to keep the pins in there anymore. I have enough thread holding the black part of the ear to the orange part of the ear that really at this point the needles are just in the way, or the pins are just in the way. I am making sure to go down and get a stitch at the tip of each one of those little pokies in the felt. That way they stay on really well and knot off, just like we always do. And start on the other side, exactly like we did the first time around. Now you may notice that the ears don't completely match up. At least this one doesn't. The other one did. But this ear doesn't completely match up, the black with the orange. And that's okay. That edge part isn't actually going to be seen anyways because that's part of our seam allowance. And so no one is going to get to see it. There, I had a little boo-boo, but I fixed it. And we'll knot off on this one. And there we go. There's a little loop there, but it doesn't matter. All right, so now I'm going to start on the cheeks. For the cheeks, I definitely need to get the placement right. I don't want him to have a lopsided face. So I'm going to take my pins and indicate where the edge of the cheek should be on either side. Right about here. So now I can take them and put them where they need to go. Looks about right to me. I'm turned correctly. Bring them down just a little bit. There we go. Yep, right there. All right, I'm going to use the whip stitch on these cheeks for two reasons. Just to use another stitch is the first reason, but really it's so that I can hold down a lot of these little fuzzies. As much as I like them and I like the fuzzy texture of it, I do kind of want to tame it just a little bit. I'm going to use the whip stitch and my white thread for this. And I'm going to double thread, I think. Oh, you know what? Before I do this, I'm going to mark on here. This goes. And I want to make whiskers. So I'm going to take my black thread and I'm going to double thread it. And then I'm just going to pull from the back to the front. And I'm not going to do anything else other than clip. So now I have sort of whiskers on that side. Little kitty whiskers. Need some more black thread. And I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. There we go. My little kitty cat tiger has whiskers. Ooh. You can see the little all right. Now I will sew them to the face. So the reason that we're sewing on the appliques now rather than later when the front and the back of the plushie are sewn together is because it would be really hard to do that. Think about it. We're having to go from the front of the fabric to the back of the fabric over and over again. And if they were already sewn together, we'd have to have her hand somewhere between the layers of the front and the back in order to do this. By doing it this way, it's just easier. It looks better. We can do more dainty work. Here I have a problem. One of my threads is much longer right now, pulled funny, and therefore it created a loop in back. This is one of the issues of double threaded needles. But by tugging on the thread from the front side, I'm able to determine which thread it is and can tug it back into place and continue on my way. Now remember, we added a lot of, well, not a lot, but a bit of fabric to the very top of this little chin piece so that it would seamlessly go under the cheek pieces, and we wouldn't have to worry about them not meeting up. That's why this little chin piece has to get sewn down first, is because it actually sits right underneath the cheek pieces. And we knot off the same as always. Now I can start on the cheek pieces. So I'm going to be taking fairly small stitches here. And that's for two reasons. One, so that I can make sure that the tips of each of the little pointy parts of the white get tacked down really well. And I can sort of create spaces between them with the thread to just give it more of that definition like we had in the paper pattern. But also because I'm planning to stuff these cheeks with batting to make them come away from the face a little bit and just give it a little more of a 3D effect. To do this, I have to leave a hole at the bottom, which you'll see in a minute. And actually, let's just skip to that. And here you can see the little hole that I've left, and that's where I will stuff the batting in. And then I will sew this little hole shut. Now it's time to sew on the tummy. For the stomach, I'm using the basting or running stitch again, just like I used with the ears. This is just a cleaner looking stitch. There's nothing to interrupt the silhouette of the stomach this way, like there would be for the whip stitch. So I just think that it would be a better stitch for what I'm doing right now. Here I've run out of thread, and I want to cut it and get more thread before it is so short that I can no longer work with it. Once you have your new piece of thread, it's really easy to just put a knot in the end and then just start like you normally would and pick up where you left off. All right, this just goes to show you that everyone makes mistakes, even people who've been doing this for a really long time. I should have probably broken today up into different time chunks for this because I can tell I'm getting tired. My little ears, the pink parts, are supposed to sit underneath the black parts, sort of right here and right here. But I forgot about that when sewing on the black parts. So in order to get the pink parts to sit properly where they need to underneath the black, I am going to have to go in and seam rip this, pull it up, sew on my pink parts where they need to go, and then sew my black parts down. It's not a big deal, especially since they're just done on with the basting stitch. It'll be really simple to do. But I did want to take this time as a learning opportunity to show just how to like take mistakes on the chin and keep going. It's not the end of the world. It takes a little bit of time, but honestly, with these sewing stitches, not a lot of time. So if you run into mistakes like this, don't worry. Everything is fixable. It's not brain surgery. If you make mistakes, nobody's going to die, and that's the important thing. All right, so I'm not done with my plushie yet, not anywhere near done. I still have to fix his ears. I have to sew on the eyeballs and the stripes and all of that goodness. Well, actually, the stripes are going to come later. But I do have to do all of that. But I think I'm done for today. I may add more to this video. I may not. Really, it's just the same stuff over and over and over. It's either going to be the whip stitch, the running and basting stitch, or the blanket stitch to attach things. If I want things to look fuzzy or have sort of a um, uh, irregular edge, I'm going to use the whip stitch. If I want the edges to be smooth and not have my thread sort of overlap the edge, I'm going to use the running stitch or the basting stitch. If I want there to be sort of an outline along the edge of whatever I'm sewing, with little lines coming up from that, I'm going to use the blanket stitch. By the way, that works really well for eyelashes. If you have a little piece of felt that you want as like an eyelid to partly cover an eye, and you do the blanket stitch right on the bottom of that, it'll look like eyeliner, a little bit of eyeliner and eyelashes, and it's super cute. I do that one all the time. I probably won't on this one though, because she's already got that fun little cat eye thing going on. So probably won't do that this time. If you're having any problems with sewing on your appliques, please let me know. Do get all your appliques sewed on before you attach the front of your plushie to the back of your plushie, or before you do any of those seams that require the back stitch to be stress seams. Okay, it's just a lot easier. I've never tried to applique on things once I had already sewn the front to the back, but I can imagine it's so frustratingly difficult. So be good to yourselves, do things in the order that makes the most sense, and I look forward to seeing your plushies. In the next step is where we actually do attach the front to the back. So I'll see you then.